I decided to try becoming the fastest person in the world to get the Platinum Trophy in The Last of Us Remake. But to make it more fun and challenging, not that it was necessary, I thought I'd spice things up by playing with perma-death per chapter and on moderate difficulty instead of, not doing that and playing on very easy. Spoilers for the entire game moving forward. Okay, so what's the plan? Right. Wake up in the middle of the night, get into a traffic accident, die. Wait, that can't be right. Let me start over. Escape the city, get a car, drive it to my brother Tommy, hey Tommy, make it to the Fireflies so they can find a cure for humanity, go to Winchester's, have a nice cold pint and wait for all this to blow over. Also, I will have to remember to pick up every collectible in the main game and the DLC, engage in every optional conversation, collect every single comic book, all the Firefly pendants and not miss any of the miscellaneous trophies while doing that as quickly as I humanly can. Oh, and also not die while doing all that, since if I die in the game, I will have to redo the entire chapter, which will cost me a lot of time. Will I be able to claim first place on PSN Profiles leaderboards where most people are not masochists like me, or will I get my face smashed in by a bloater? Or will it be both? Let's find out. I started a new game on my speedrunning account, and after getting through the intro, I found myself at the Boston quarantine zone in the near future, which honestly looks about right. There I got my first optional conversation and things were looking up. I had my own place and a partner, so maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked at first glance. Until a truck exploded right in front of me, injuring my arm. But you know what? I didn't let it get to me and pushed forward. Tess and I were getting ready for a meet and greet with our buddy Robert, who apparently stole from us. I know that usually violence isn't the answer, but this time the question was, what are my plans for today? With that in mind, I picked up my gun, my badge, my flashlight and spare underwear, and we were off. We crossed through an abandoned building where I was supposed to pick up my first Firefly pendant, which I blatantly missed. I sneaked around a couple of infected, and we found a few of Robert's men who really didn't appreciate us coming by. Now, you're probably thinking that I talked my way out of this situation, and you'd be incredibly wrong since Tess was the one doing the talking and she just showed them our invitations. As a result, I was missing 2 bullets, which was unfortunate, but not as unfortunate as it was for Robert, who was missing 3 of his men. I know that those are rookie numbers, but don't you worry, they're gonna be way higher before the end of the day. I wish I could say that the rest of the game went just as well, but it wasn't really the case. In the next couple of sections, while going further into Robert's territory, I managed to completely miss another Firefly pendant on the tree, didn't see one of the enemies in time, so he taught me a valuable lesson about not trying to parry incoming attacks with my face, and I was surprised by an enemy placement in what was supposed to be a quick and easy section and was almost given a one-way ticket to being unalivened. But just as I was about to tell Tess that I wasn't having a good time, the kids were mean to me and I would like to go home, we found the man of the hour himself. You see, in his endless wisdom, he thought it would be a great idea to sell the guns we already paid for to the Fireflies faction, so after a small chase, we gave his arm a chiropractic adjustment and sent him off to presumably live on a farm with his family. But lucky break, we met Marlene, who just happened to be the leader of those Fireflies. Naturally, I thought that she was about to join Robert because holy shit, Tess is light on the trigger sometimes, but Marlene offered us a deal. We smuggle something out of the city and she gives us our guns back. We let Marlene lead the way, but before we made it to our destination, we had some soldiers blocking our path. I wanted to sneak by them.
We can sneak by them, even though I know that's not your style.
What do you mean it's not my style? You know what? Just because you said it, I will kill every soldier in my way, and it's definitely not because I need to do so to unlock an optional conversation. And just like that, I met Ellie, who we will be smuggling, and while talking to her, I missed another Firefly pendant along the way. God damn it. Okay, serious talk time. What's up with me missing all those pendants? Is it because my memory is shit? Or is it because I think they're stupid and don't add anything to the game? Or am I just being dumb? Well, obviously it's all free, but the main reason is something else entirely. The thing with PSN Profiles leaderboards is, it counts the time between the first and the last trophy and not the time actually spent in the game. Therefore, I decided to avoid picking up any of the Firefly pendants before making it to Billstown, which admittedly won't save me much time because I can't make manual saves, meaning that I'll have to replay entire chapters of the game, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Speaking of going to Billstown, that wasn't the initial plan. At first we only intended to get Ellie to the Capitol building and the Fireflies would take her the rest of the way, but we still had to get there first, which would prove to be challenging. We ran into patrols, Found out that Ellie was immune, which apparently was the whole reason for the journey, and it was time to vacate the premises. Sure, I could wait for the patrols to pass or shoot my way out, but it's not what this challenge is about. So I tied my shoes, put on my speedos, and bolted the f*** out of there. The military couldn't keep up with me. Ellie couldn't keep up with me. Hell, even Usain Bolt probably couldn't keep up with me. I was fast as fuck, boy! It was finally showtime. First of all, I encountered my first clicker and it encountered my brick. Secondly, I found my first shiv door and it found my shiv. Yeah, that wasn't as good the second time around. Lastly, I went into a room full of infected and killed all of them only using my bare hands, gaming skills and sheer determination. But before we could breathe freely, literally get it? Cause spores, I realized that we had to get to the subway station, which was crawling with even more infected. The stakes were high, but I was higher. One mistake and chances are I get forcefully admitted to the afterlife and have to redo the entire 20-minute section. So as I was crawling at a snail's pace, I found myself face to face with another clicker which was seconds away from detecting me. But fortunately I was quick enough to use a shiv, preventing what would have been without a doubt a horrible and painful death. I looted the safe in the midst of all that, stabbed the clicker guarding the ladder, which was weird. How much are they paying you, buddy? And actually made it out of there unscathed. The last obstacle between us and the Capitol building was the museum we needed to cut through. At first it seemed pretty calm, but before I knew what was going on, a ceiling collapsed separating me from the rest of the group, which was actually a good thing because it allowed me to loot some supplies without having to share. I ran by a clicker after shooting it in the face and went full on ballistic on some of the infected in the building. Joel? 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 What the hell are you doing? Not really sure what happened, but at least we were out of there. We made it to the Capitol building and found out that Tess was infected. So she forced us to leave her there, but not before emotionally manipulating me into taking Ellie all the way to the Fireflies. I looted the place, picked up a rifle and ran by every enemy without killing anyone.
You're quite
pacifist.
You know, I'm something of a
Pacifist.
myself.
Does that make me a coward? Maybe, but it's a speedrun. Shut up. It was time for the second part of my master plan. Get to Bill and force him to give me a car so we could drive to Tommy, who might know where the Fireflies were. By the time we made it to Billstown, Ellie actually started to grow on me a little, you know? Yes, she was annoying, but I didn't want to shoot her in the face anymore and I consider this a huge success. Also, there was an excellent opportunity to test something. I was wondering whether I actually needed to finish listening to an optional conversation for it to count, so I tried it. The answer was yes, meaning I'll have to replay the first part of this chapter too. Well, shit, added to the list. But not all was bad. I looted a few more places, broke into more apartments, killed more infected, picked up more notes, and most importantly, used supplements to unlock a Shiv Master skill. It's a surprise tool that will help us later. I still needed to find Bill, so I went through the town and stumbled upon a trap. You know what, Bill? Fool me once, shame on you, but teach a man to fool me and I'll be fooled for the rest of my life. Or whatever the saying is. If you have a problem with it, cry me a table. And just as I finished this thought, I was caught by another one of Bill's traps. Unfortunately for me, Bill was strong with the way of the physics, so I found myself dangling upside down like some discount Spider-Man, but unlike Spider-Man, I actually had a gun. It's a surprise tool that will help us later. As I was keeping off infected while trying to prevent my tidy whities from becoming yellow, I was nearly given a hickey by this lovely lady. Damn, that was kinda scary, not gonna lie. Luckily, just like when your mom barges into your room during the only sex scene of the entire show you're watching, Bill appeared just in the nick of time to save the day. I shot a runner that was about to catch up to us, used my brick trick to get away from the clicker, and ran by all the other infected to get into the safe room. Okay, enough messing around, time to earn my first trophy. The neat thing about it though, I was in full speedrunner mode at this point. There was no time to waste. We had to get to the school to get a battery out of a truck that was stuck in it so we could use it to fix a car for us. Easy, just more infected to shoot, supplies to pick up and collectibles to find on the way there. Like this one, which was my first Firefly pendant. But more importantly, I was confident, until I remembered that the next section was the graveyard where I had died countless times in practice, but this time I had a secret weapon up my sleeve. Remember the Shiv Master skill I unlocked earlier? It's a surprise tool that will help us later. Well, with that in mind, and with me getting the shotgun and crafting both gun holsters before heading in, I found a great strategy that works 60% of the time, all the time. I just ran by every single clicker to the end of the graveyard where I used my shotgun to dispatch of all of them. It's not a foolproof plan, but it worked, goddammit. As we left this godforsaken place, I was feeling pretty good about myself. Bill was cooperating, Ellie wasn't annoying me, and I didn't have any major issues in the last couple of sections, but this false feeling of confidence almost was my downfall. As I reached a house where I needed to pick up a firefly pendant, I want to try something out with a bow, but what I didn't realize is that I had my gun drawn after choking out an infected earlier, resulting in me accidentally firing it, drawing all the infected in the area that I was so tediously trying to avoid earlier. And just like that, I suddenly had to deal with lots of mushroom people in a way I never had to do before. I panicked, retreated to the roof of one of the houses where my trusty shotgun came to the rescue, and thanks to the drops I ended up with even more shotgun shells than I started with. Immediately after that we made it to the schoolyard where I used my trusty run by everyone to the end of the section and then shoot them with the shotgun strategy, which worked surprisingly well. I guess when Marlene said,
"You can sneak by them, even though I know that's not your style."
she was kinda right, but at least we made it inside the building. Unfortunately, the battery wasn't there and we had to make our escape through the school corridors. I killed a few infected, played baseball with a clicker, and as I tried to cut to the exit through the gym, I saw this monstrosity for the first time. You might think that this fight was hard, and you'd be right. Hard not to laugh at how easy it was. As the bloater was still trying to get its bearings, I was ready. All I needed to do was to imagine that he killed my dog and go all John Wick on his ass, and it was glorious. The ingredients for this recipe of death were 2 nail bombs, 2 Molotov cocktails, 2 bullets, and 2 tears in my eyes for my imaginary pup. Even though you only existed in my head for a few brief moments, you were a good boy. We escaped into one of the nearby buildings to get away from even more infected, and to our surprise, we found the body of Bill's partner Frank. I have a working theory that he might have been arrested and promptly executed by the fashion police, but I'm not really sure. More importantly, we found the car he managed to fix. Now that's what I call lucky. I gathered a few supplies, gave Bill the note Frank left for him, picked it up again after he unceremoniously threw it away, and talked to Ellie to let her know that she is doing a good job, and we were ready to try starting the car. Escaping with the truck proved to be a more significant challenge than I anticipated. As much as I love using shotgun in this game, I don't Ernest Hemingway love it, as it has one fatal flaw. Sometimes it just won't shoot and do the pump animation instead, therefore I had to use a couple of shifts to escape my death. I ain't gonna lie, I really wasn't happy about it, but we finally had our car and could be on our way. As I was driving, I came across a closed-off highway, so I decided to cut through the city of Pittsburgh. Although it seemed like a great idea at first, I was immediately ambushed, but you know what? No! I was prepared this time. They thought they were ambushing me when in fact I pulled off an ultimate Uno reverse card, went around and bamboozled every single one of these men without taking damage. Hell yeah! The problem was we were stuck in the middle of their city, so we had to get to the Fort Duquesne Bridge to escape. I upgraded my shotgun and my 6-shooter, found the first comic book and talked to Ellie before being surprised by more hunters, but I was not f***ing around anymore. Those guys needed to go. You see, normally they wouldn't be a problem. I would just wait behind the car for a couple of minutes for them to leave. But why would I ever do that if I could engage in totally unnecessary violence instead? So, with a shotgun in my hands and my rage meter full, I started blasting. But as I calmed down, I decided to take a small break to reflect on my personal cycle of violence, which is exactly when Ellie decided was an appropriate time to tell me puns.
Doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
But that small break aside, we still needed to go deeper into the city, where I found myself in the midst of one of the most challenging encounters of the entire game. Sure, I could probably run by all the enemies and jump out of the window without anyone being able to stop me, but that's not how we do things around here. In the name of our Lord and Savior, the Platinum Trophy, I had to match all of these men. Speaking of which, there was a metric ton of them. I wish I could tell you it was easy, but they almost sent me packing all the way to the beginning of the chapter more times than I care to admit, but I gathered back my courage, cried a bit on the inside while hiding in the cover, and let them come to me one by one. And even though my aim in this section was equivalent to a name of a drunk octopus, I was eventually able to arrange an urgent meeting between them and God. Then I picked up some collectibles, unlocked a shift door, and listened to more of Ellie's jokes.
I used to be addicted to soap, but I'm clean now.
Thanks, Ellie. We took a look around and saw that we should be able to get to the bridge by going through a hotel, and Ellie decided to waste even more of my time with spans. Remember how I said that I didn't want to shoot her anymore? Well... As we got to the hotel lobby, I took a ladder and placed it in the appropriate position and wanted to go to the coffee machine to talk about coffee. But for some reason, Joel decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. Another one for the list. At least I was still able to loot the place and listen to another one of Ellie's stand-up routines.
I tried to catch some fog earlier. I missed.
All in all, things were great until I found even more hunters inside the hotel, and just like a few minutes ago, I had the constitutional duty to perform forced lobotomies on all these men. Countless bullets were wasted, but on the bright side, about a dozen people found their deaths in the same way I live my life. Lonely, sad, and miserable. And despite being shot at least a few times myself, I still had enough perseverance to surgically remove parts of their heads with a simple prescription of a pipe beating. 4 minutes later my rampage came to an end, but don't you worry, my bloodlust was just getting started. We used an elevator in a similar way I use it normally, but before I was able to say, oh shit, here we go again, the elevator cable snapped, dropping me to the scary hotel basement. And here I was at the creepiest section of the game. I struggled. I failed. I was scared. Scared of how easy it was, I picked up the hotel keycard, ran backwards to prevent stalkers from spawning, turned on the generator, ran to the door, took out the stalkers that were too close for comfort, and got the hell out of there without taking damage. As I made my way up the stairs, I couldn't just ignore the 4 people there, so after taking care of them and getting up the ladder, I was bamboozled by this one guy. He was strong and I left my emergency Uno reverse card in another jacket, but Ellie actually came to my rescue. And although I was mad at her for doing the exact opposite of the only thing I told her to do, I still felt thankful deep inside and decided to give her a gun. After leaving Ellie to cover me, I organized a surprise party for a few more hunters.
You're fucking dead! The hell's he yapping about? Take a breath. Who's dead?
But unfortunately it wasn't enough to convince the rest of them to run away to change their undies, so more violence was in order. I tried to hang back and let them come to me. I immediately regretted doing that. My ammo, morale, and general will to live were running dangerously low, but by some miracle, like when you pee in your dream without peeing in real life, I managed to pull through by the skin of my teeth. You know what? Ammo was starting to become a real issue, and on the very next encounter I almost ran out again. As I was firing bullet after bullet, I was considering just throwing in the towel and hitting that switch team button, but again, I managed to scrape by just for long enough to permanently cure those hunters from a very serious medical condition called being alive. And just as I thought I was safe, I encountered an armored truck. As much as I wanted to tell Ellie to distract it and run away in a different direction, I decided that even though her jokes were terrible, the jokes I made in this video so far are objectively worse and should probably be banned by the international community. Therefore, I should probably try keeping her safe, so I ran away with her, putting my life in danger. But I guess not everything was terrible. For example, as I was crawling through a window, I met Henry and Sam, and although my first instinct was to beat up Henry, we ended up being a great team. We were doing a whole bunch of family-friendly activities together, like burning people alive, shooting guns at live targets, and all in all, being great parent figures for Ellie and Sam. And after getting some rest, it was finally time to make our daring escape from the city under the cover of darkness. But unfortunately, as much as I thought I was prepared, I wasn't ready for the amount of fuckery the game was about to inflict on me. First of all, I couldn't turn off the generator without being detected, meaning that it goes on the list of chapters I have to replay. Secondly, I was blasted with a shotgun as I was running, and lastly, one of the hunters, seeing how bad my aim was, went into shock and couldn't move. I felt terrible for him, so I tried helping him out in the only way I could. Sleep well, sweet prince. As we opened the gates, I could smell freedom, but just like the pursuit of my happiness, my celebration was cut short when the truck appeared again and Henry decided to abandon me. Heartbroken but still alive, I decided to try recreating some of our favorite moments together, but burning people alive without Henry just didn't feel the same. But oh no! The truck was back and there seemed to be no escape from forcefully and promptly undergoing brain removal surgery, but Ellie decided that drowning was probably a safer bet. I thought I was surely gone for good this time, but Henry actually saved us, and although I was still mad at him for leaving me to be grated like a block of cheese, I was happy to see him and together we went into the sewers. The beginning was okay, you know, trophies were unlocked, infected were dispatched off in a timely fashion, and I had a pretty good day overall. That is, until I got locked up with Sam in a room full of clickers and stalkers. I was lost, I didn't know what to do, and just as I was about to accept my fate, I decided to put on my seatbelt, clutch my cheeks harder than I'd ever done before, close my eyes, and just run hoping for the best. Guess what? It actually worked. Sure, I still needed to evolve a couple of those Pokemon into ghost types, but it was easier than expected. But I spoke too soon, because now I had to wait for Ellie to open the door for me from the other side while I was getting swarmed by infected. But a nail bomb, Molotov, a couple of machete swings, and a few bullets later, I was out of there. As we made our way through a suburban area, I looked around, talked to people, picked up stuff, unlocked my last safe, upgraded my 6-shooter to the max, and of course listened to more Ellie's jokes.
What did the green grape say to the purple grape? Breathe, you idiot!
I gotta say, like my beard, she kind of grew on me. But it wasn't as safe as it looked at first, because a sniper was hiding in one of the buildings, so I did what any reasonable person would. I ran straight for him, and it actually kinda worked out. I still got shot a couple of times, but as long as I survived, it didn't matter. In the sniper nest, I took out a few dozen hunters worthy of a Darwin Award for their self-preservation instinct, and finally took care of the armored truck with my medically prescribed 15 caliber capsules. And at 2 hours and 16 minutes mark, I was done with the summer section. The fall started as Ellie and I reached the dam near Jackson City. I was nervous, it's been a long time since I last saw Tommy. Sure, he was my brother and all, but the last thing he said to me was,
I don't ever want to see your goddamn face again.
But first we needed to get to him, which meant crossing the dam. Ellie helped me out and wanted a high five, and I would definitely give her one, I would, but then I remembered how much of my time she wasted with her jokes, so I decided that she didn't deserve it. I met Tommy, and it got me thinking, maybe, just maybe, this speedrun could be over faster if, instead of taking Ellie all the way myself, I asked Tommy to do it. You know, division of labor kind of thing. And as we were on the way to have a private chat about it, I met Buckley. He was a good boy. As I was having the talk with Tommy, who for some reason didn't like the idea, we were attacked by raiders who probably didn't enjoy this physical abuse simulator I inflicted upon them, and they were swiftly sent to the afterlife, but not before something terrible happened. You see, I was killing raiders, pulling off headshots left, right and center, and then, after finally killing everyone, this happened. Seriously? Seriously? Oh, that's... Oh my god, please don't count it as a death. Luckily the game didn't count it as a death, and I just had to teach those last 5 enemies a lesson for the second time, but this time my aim was on a stormtrooper level. That said, I pulled through, and Tommy and I were off to find Ellie. I think she didn't appreciate that I wanted to give her away to Tommy and decided to ride off with one of the horses. The hunters on the way to the ranch weren't a big problem, and I didn't have enough crayons to explain to them why attacking us was a bad idea, so I just showed it to them instead, and the ones inside the house were swiftly lectured on my round and find out philosophy. As we were riding off, I thought again about this whole Ellie situation and decided that I should probably keep her around, so I got directions from Tommy and we were off to the University of Eastern Colorado, where Fireflies apparently had a lab. Just like in the university I went to, there was an emergency flamethrower lying on the floor, and I immediately decided to make use of it. But just like a Windows troubleshooter, I was also looking for problems, so I shot a gun to bring the infected down in order to kill them in the most humane way possible, and while waiting, I went to pick a note off the wall. Unfortunately, I accidentally interacted with a switch next to it instead, got locked into a long animation, and was instantly swarmed by infected, which I was barely able to fight off, but fight them off I certainly did. I made my way to the next building, killed all 4 clickers quietly, and went all psycho on the bloater in the hallway to get his Firefly pendant. We arrived at the science building, but Fireflies were nowhere to be seen. Luckily, we were able to find the tape recorder that was conveniently left for us and had our new destination, Salt Lake City. And just as we were about to get our things and get out of there, we found another group of people who thought it was a good idea to mess with us. I used a moderate amount of violence, performed brain surgery with a pipe and ran away, but unfortunately it was not to be. I opened the door and got jumped by a news reporter who really wanted to take my interview, and before I knew what was going on, I was impaled on the floor. Ellie helped me to get out of there, but I was in no shape to keep going. As Ellie, I managed to hunt the deer without missing a single shot.
That was a terrible shot.
The problems appeared when I chased the now dead deer into the mining camp and ran into David, and while his friend ran off to get antibiotics for Joel to trade for the deer meat, we were attacked by a swarm of infected. I wasn't worried at first. The doors were locked and they didn't have the key, but what I didn't realize is that they didn't need an invitation to be able to enter the premises, so I exercised my right to stand my ground and took care of every single one of these fun guys until we realized that we probably wouldn't be able to do it all day, cut our losses and move to the next area where I had to sneak away from a few infected, pick up a couple of supplies and finally hold my ground again. Things were getting serious there, but at least I had a bit more room to run around. David actually saved me once, thank you David, but I mostly held my own. When the bloater made his grand appearance, I quickly convinced him that the cost of living outweighed the benefits, and that was that. But guess what? David was actually the bad guy. He sent his men to hunt me down, so I ran off to draw them away from Joe. Unfortunately, TLOU was shot and I was on my own once again. Luckily, I knew exactly what to do in this situation, so I ignored all the resources in the cabin resort because I was not going to need them, except for the Firefly pendant, of course. Took a long way around the raiders, which brings into question the legality of their peripheral vision, climbed the wall from the left side, shot the only guy in my way and ran into even more hunters. Come on, don't you have anything better to do? So I just used my invisibility cheat and sneaked by them as quickly and efficiently as possible, killed 2 more guys inside the cabin and was captured by David. Luckily, I finally woke up as Joel and went on a hunt to get Ellie back, but because Joel was still injured, he was a terrible shot. I swear, that's the reason, it wasn't me, it was definitely his fault. As Ellie, I managed to escape David, but that meant I was stuck in the middle of the enemy settlement without any supplies. But you know what? I don't need no damn supplies. I even ignored the first aid kit in the name of speed. I was confident. I was furious. I was honestly kinda scared of the next encounter, this time with David himself. In fact, I was so worried about this section of the game that I practiced this fight for about an hour a day prior and I thought I had this in the bag. Until that happened. And not gonna lie, it really threw me off, but I wasn't ready to give up yet.
No! 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 Me.
Okay, never mind. And just like that, my ambitions of finishing this whole run without dying at all were crushed and I had to replay this entire chapter. Luckily, it's not a long section, but frustration was creeping in as I found out that while I spent 70 hours learning everything about this game, making this run possible, the game was also learning the speedrun strats on how to f*** me. And it didn't help that I wasn't cautious enough as I was trying to get back to David as quickly as possible.
I'm dead. Okay, I'm not dead.
But little did I know that David had different plans this time. After getting my first hit in, I tried to run by and he somehow caught up to me and killed me for the second time.
What?
I restarted the chapter again and returned to the diner after losing yet another bottle, but this time I pushed my feelings down, took my time and taught David the meaning of friendship. Back as Joel, I ran around the hunters, unlocked another shift door, crafted the smoke bomb, unlocking a trophy for that along the way, and used it to get around the enemies without killing anyone. And sure, I got hit a few times, but it was worth it. As we were getting closer to the St. Mary Hospital, I petted a giraffe and got my last set of tools. We were finally getting close, we just needed to cross an underground tunnel full of infected. For a change, I actually knew what I was doing, so we managed to sneak by everyone while also picking up the last training manual along the way. Sure, there is probably a quicker way of doing that, but it was good enough for me. I shot a clicker in the room before he had a chance to attack Ellie, found my last workbench, and as we were desperately trying to get out of there, we almost drowned, but at least after such a long journey, we finally found the fireflies. I woke up in the hospital and found out that they were going to kill Ellie to harvest her immune brain before she even woke up, and there's no way I would allow that to happen. The next part is usually pretty hard, but I had a plan, I practiced before and the risks I took were calculated, but man, I'm bad at math and it backfired almost immediately as I barely managed to stay alive, healing at the last possible moment before getting killed. As I made my way to the 6th floor, I found the last shift door of the game, unlocking the Master of Unlocking trophy. No, not that one. Yeah, that's the one. I used the smoke bomb to run by the last line of the Firefly defense, shot Jerry in the face, sorry Jerry, took Ellie and I was out of there. All that was left to do was to get back to Jackson. Here I picked up the last comic book, took a last look at the town and the main game was over. Now I had to get back and pick up everything I missed along the way, which to be fair wasn't a lot and I managed to do so in 29 minutes or so. With all that out of the way, I just had to finish the last couple of chapters of Left Behind. I proved to Raleigh that I was still a brickmaster, cleared the mall basement from stalkers, sneaked away from the infected in the next room, ran by a couple of clickers and told the last set of jokes. We had a few pictures taken, and by that I completed all the optional conversations of the game. I found the Jack and Dexter arcade cabinet, and Riley helped me to fulfill my dream of playing a video game, which I had definitely never done before. Unfortunately, I couldn't get through it without taking damage on my first attempt, meaning I will have to replay this whole chapter later, but at least I managed to show off my water gun skills. I could feel myself getting closer. I got a bow, sneaked by all the hunters, except for the last one who I brutally
Tickled.
picked up the last collectible of the game and distracted the infected so they would take care of the hunters for me. That unfortunately didn't work out. Like at all.
No! No! Me!
The second attempt finally went my way and I managed to escape. I disposed of a few infected in the following area to clear myself a path, and in the main hall, violence was back on the menu as I killed every last hunter there. But I knew it wasn't over just yet, so as a master strategist I prepared for the next attack by planting a few bombs in crucial areas to make my enemies more confused than a chameleon in a bag of Skittles, and by that make my escape easier. As I ran upstairs, I noticed that all of them were gathered in a small area, so as a way of honoring Henry, a Molotov cocktail was in order, but I wasn't paying attention, resulting in this.
Oh no, fuck!
With my confidence at a new historical low, it felt almost as disappointing as getting a phone call from a childhood friend, only for him to try talking you into a pyramid scheme, but I got myself back together, restarted the chapter and got all the way back to that encounter, and finally was able to inflict pain and suffering on everyone involved. I ran away with Riley from the mall, getting both of us beaten along the way, and with that the DLC was finished as well. All that was left to do was to replay chapter 3 of Left Behind to defeat Black Fang without getting hit, which this time I did on my very first attempt, and to turn off the generator during the Escape the City chapter before getting detected, which on very easy difficulty was, well, very easy. And just like that the Platinum Trophy was mine in 6 hours and 53 seconds. I synced my account with PSN profiles and lo and behold, I managed to secure a world record for a few days. Of course it was broken between the time of the recording and publishing of this video because it took me forever to write, record and edit, but because there is no separation by difficulty, I am probably still the fastest person in the world to do it with perma-death per chapter and on moderate, so I'll consider it a win. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to check out my attempt of trying to speedrun the Platinum Trophy in Resident Evil 3. Thank you for watching.